Yeah. What's up, everyone? This is the Brainless One. We are the effing Marks. Jay should be popping in momentarily. But this is episode 301 of our podcast. We're going to be discussing what happened at Elimination Chamber. Did we get a new WWE Universal Undisputed Champion? Or is Roman's 900 plus day reign continuing on? Do we have a new United States champion? Who's the number one contender for Bianca Belair's championship at WrestleMania? All that, and who won Brock and Bobby, and some AEW stuff. And yes, I'm actually going to be pretty positive about AEW today. But yeah, I guess while I'm waiting for Jay, I'll dive into this a little bit. I got to say that was a pretty solid Elimination Chamber card. I thought that was one of the better ones they've done in a while. I enjoyed it. And here we got Jay. I really thought it was one of the better Elimination Chambers that they've done. And I was impressed with the match. Yeah? What's up, Jay?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sweet.
Very good.
Yeah. Is that a Danbury Trasher's hat?
No, this is the Trash Pandas hat.
Okay.
I wish I had a Danbury Trasher's hat, but that was something I'll have to figure out later on. But so Jay, what were your thoughts about Elimination Chamber?
I thought it was pretty dang outstanding. And as much as I hear what Chris Brown is saying there in the chat about people complaining about how safe it's become, to an extent, I agree with that. Although I'm going to say Montez Ford's spot, as much as they did everything to make that safe, holy crap. Have you ever seen anybody really do that?
I was impressed with that. That was my favorite chamber match. Just period. That was my favorite chamber match ever. I think they put the right people in there. They all delivered. I thought that was, Montez Ford's kind of coming out party as like a singles competitor, as like, because I know I've been saying for months, like the main event Montez Ford and everything, but he looked good. I thought everything about that match was booked so perfect, and to the point where I was even impressed when Montez Ford, after he ate the curb stomp from Seth and then got pinned, and he sold that injury, and people were legitimate, like, holy shit, something happened to him. They brought in the people and everything, and he sold it to a point where people were legit thinking he was hurt. And then obviously once Logan Paul delivered got in there and delivered the greatest buckshot lariat in professional wrestling, we all knew it was work. So I enjoyed it. I know that Cornette was very vocal about how he felt about it. And because of the fact that it is clean, and he's always thought that Elimination Chamber should be one of those blood feud finishes type of deal. And I get that. He's kind of on the boat with like the non-gimmicky pay-per-views. I mean, Money in the Bank, I think, is one of those types that I am actually on board with them keeping. Obviously, the Royal Rumble, that's besides the point. But like the Elimination Chambers, Extreme Rules, the Hell in a Cell, yeah.
And like Extreme Rules, at least this year, they finally made it extreme again, where like there were a bunch of extreme matches where for the most part in the past, handful of years, maybe even the past decade before this year, you might have had a couple of extreme matches. I mean, we did get a stairs match one year, which was at Extreme Rules, but I understand keeping the performers safe. I understand the idea of not people wanting to have people blade. You've got one end of the spectrum where you got a dude bleeding every time he talks. Then you've got the other side of the spectrum where they don't bleed ever.
Which is funny, too,
Tom,
because
I agree. No Extreme Rules. I don't think they need it anymore. I think they could have an Extreme Rules match without labeling a pay-per-view that.
Agreed. But I guess, and it's funny, too, because we've had that discussion on both ends of the spectrum this week, because Cornette wasn't the only one that came out and said that he doesn't like the fact that the Elimination Chamber is very clean now. But then you have Bubba Ray Dudley, who came out on Busted Open Radio yesterday and said, boy, Jon Moxley bleeds too much. And that's coming from an ECW original. Yeah. And I've been saying that. And it's not even, it's a joke at this point. It's like nobody, and then it's somebody randomly bleeding. Jon Moxley. It was the thing I posted. I want to say I posted. If I'm not, I'm going to have to post it. What?
Hey, that's one of our more well-performing reels, the one where you're like Ric Flair and Jon Moxley walk into a bar and they're both bleeding.
It was, and it's
or ring. Either way,
something like that. Either way,
yeah.
And it used to fit for both, but Moxley was smart enough to clean himself up from that. But and it's funny too because we just had his match on Wednesday against Evil Uno, and it was Jon Moxley's if he won, it was 100th victory, and of course he bled, and so did Evil Uno, and people were talking shit about that, which is a shame because I will say this: that was one of the best dynamites they've put together, and I know coming out of my mouth.
I mean the MJF and Bryan Danielson promo and all that went into that, Jericho and Ricky Starks. I mean, there was a lot of really good stuff on Dynamite this week. But getting back into Elimination Chamber, just because Mike Rainey put stuff in there, that his only mild disappointment was Sami Zayn not getting the W. That's one thing that definitely WWE is having a hard time with. They specifically during the Monday segment with Heyman and Cody did not give the crowd any inch to start having a Sami chant because, then that's like the match that starts a flame, a large flame that they won't be able to extinguish, and they'll not have the WrestleMania moment that they're trying to get if people are thinking about Sami Zayn instead of Cody Rhodes.
It's still very possible. I don't rule anything out. This is a very big opportunity for Triple H, and I get it. And it's unfortunate because, like I said last year when they did it, unifying the championships was stupid. Vince putting the WWE Championship on Roman Reigns was stupid. And it's funny, too, because I actually wrote some stuff down that I wanted to get into about Roman Reigns' reign as the WWE Undisputed Universal WWE Champion. I put some stuff together, and frankly, at some point, at any point, they were just better off having him defend one of the championships instead of both at the same time. They did it with the Usos. The Usos had defended the Raw and the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. Why at Clash of the Castle he couldn't just fight Drew McIntyre for either the Universal or the WWE Championship? Why couldn't he just fight Kevin Owens for the WWE title at the Royal Rumble? I mean, you had so many different ways of getting yourself out of it, but yet you're just digging yourself into a bigger hole because you've come across, and we all know history repeats itself. You needed somebody to step up as your big-time face. Cody went down and tore his pec and had the surgery. You switched Edge from the Spooky Pals because you thought that he would be the guy who would step up as your biggest face. You didn't realize that Sami Zayn was going to get super white hot in the process. I can see this. I'm hoping this is all smoke and mirrors. I know on Monday they started planting the seed for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn to eventually fight the Usos for the Tag Team Championships. I'm sorry, Jay. Sami Zayn not fighting for one of those championships at WrestleMania is just very underwhelming to me, and I don't know if I'm going to be happy if that's the case.
So one thing that we do know is the Tribal Chief is actually going to be at a house show soon, and the match he's going to be in is him and Solo going against Captain Cupcake and Sami Zayn. I think what's gone on here is Zayn sweetened the pot for Monday, and he offered him a full tray of cupcakes from Montreal.
I'm sorry. And it's not just because of my personal animosity for Kevin Owens because of the fact that he's the biggest 200-plus pound baby on planet Earth. And I don't care for Kevin Owens. I'm sorry. It's just I don't as a wrestling fan, what he's done in the past, I wouldn't trust him if I'm Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn had every right and every reason to not trust Kevin Owens in this whole process. I'm sorry. And if anything, it's Kevin Owens' fault that Sami. I mean, if we're gonna play it kayfabe wise, it's Kevin Owens' fault that Sami Zayn is not the WWE champion or the Universal champion right now. Sami Zayn would still be in the bloodline. So if anything, we could all blame Kevin Owens for everything getting ruined.
All right, Tommy would have preferred to see Sami with the belts and then have Sami and Cody at Mania. As much as I understand where you're going with that, Tommy, probably a more technically proficient match than what we'll see with Roman. You know what? Say what you will about Roman. He knows how to work the crowd. He knows how to work a match.
Yep.
Clearly, by the reactions that we got in Montreal, like a lot of that was Sami, but you can't get those reactions for Sami without having Roman do what he's been doing.
Right.
And Roman has been the champion for so long. At this point, I'm not going to say that it would be useless to not have him lose the title at WrestleMania, but it makes way more sense to have the longest modern title reign end at WrestleMania. The fact that Roman currently is not on the poster for Money in the Bank says an awful lot.
Yeah, the Gunther's going to win it.
He could certainly be added. This could be something where they're trying to swerve us. Remember when we all thought a couple of years ago Roman Reigns was going to beat Brock Lesnar and win the title because Brock's contract was up? At least we thought. And lo and behold, Brock Lesnar won.
And honestly, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because we're kind of running into this situation because of the fact that Roman is not announced for the premium live event after WrestleMania. So now there's speculation. Does that mean he's going to drop the belt? My biggest thing is, if Roman does walk out of WrestleMania this year as the champion and then buries Cody, they're fucked. They're absolutely fucked. I don't care what you say. If he does not drop the belts at WrestleMania, because there's a lot of people saying, he's going to win. He's going to beat Cody Rhodes. Why would they do anything different if Roman Reigns walks out of WrestleMania with both championships this year? I don't think I could watch WWE. That would be, for me, that is Austin joining forces with Vince McMahon at WrestleMania 17. I am sick and tired, because I now have notes and I have facts and all this stuff that people are calling him the GOAT. Get the fuck out of here. I know I said it last week, but you know what? I hate the fact that they posted it last week about, or sometime this week, about what he has done in his reign. And they announced, and they were like, this is what he has done since he's won the championship, because Bray Wyatt said, well, how did he win the title? Bray Wyatt never got a title match after he lost the belt to Roman Reigns. Even Braun Strowman got a match after their triple threat match at whatever it was, what was it, SummerSlam Backlash or some shit like that, a week after SummerSlam. And that's when it's all started. And honestly, I'm looking at it. He is the 900-plus days as champion. 900-plus days as the champion. Do you know how many times he's defended the title in that time? 27. He has defended the championship 27 times. In fact, when he won the title before WrestleMania 37, in the gap between 37 and 38, he defended the championship pretty much once a month. He's defended it half as much since last year's WrestleMania heading into this one. He's had like 6 or 7 at this point, and he's not defending the title again until WrestleMania.
One thing I'm going to say to support this, the fact that the Bloodline storyline has been a ratings getter for WWE, for the fact that him often makes it more important every time it happens. I always go back to when I was a kid. Hulk Hogan barely showed up on our Saturday morning wrestling. You would see him sometimes on primetime wrestling.
Yep.
It was like Saturday night's main event that you saw him, and you knew stuff was going down. It wasn't necessarily him losing the title, but something was going down, whether it was Don Morocco holding him down as King Kong Bundy splashed him a whole bunch of times and broke his ribs, brother. Or when Andre Giant went against him and took the title off him with the twin Hebner brother, who apparently had a bunch of dollar bills that only Hulk Hogan saw falling out of his pockets for the plastic surgery he had done to be the imposter.
And even like the later years of the early 90s when Hulk Hogan was showing up on the funeral parlor to talk to Paul Bearer, not even a week or two after the Ultimate Warrior was shoved in a casket and all of that shit happened. I mean, yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Hulk Hogan wasn't the guy that was there every single week. We're not at the time period where, like, the Hitman was there every single night, or Shawn Michaels was there every single night, or Steve Austin, or The Rock. You know, we're in a different, and now we're back. Right. But 27 times. And here's the people. Here's this who's that this whole GOAT conversation really quickly. Since he beat Bray Wyatt in the triple threat match with Braun Strowman at Backlash SummerSlam, he has defended the title twice against Jey Uso. He's defended the title twice against Sami Zayn. That first one, Brock Lesnar took his ass to Suplex City before Roman just ate the scraps of him. So that one's kind of okay. He beat Kevin Owens 4 times, and one of those was in the Royal Rumble where they had the last man standing match where they fucked up the handcuffs. There's that. You had him. He wrestled Seth Rollins at the Royal Rumble, and Seth Rollins beat him. It was the only loss he had in his entire reign was to Seth Rollins. Granted, it was disqualification, but still, it's a loss. He beat Braun once in a one-on-one match. He beat Daniel Bryan 3 times. He beat Edge once. He beat Edge and Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. Yeah, that's 2 Hall of Famers. I'm not going to argue that one. He beat Cesaro. He beat a 40-something-year-old, almost 50-year-old Rey Mysterio. He beat Hollywood John Cena. He beat Goldberg. He beat Finn Balor twice. He beat Brock Lesnar 3 times. He beat Matt Riddle, who's never been a main eventer in WWE, once. He beat Drew McIntyre, and he beat Logan Paul, who's not even a wrestler, in his 3rd career match.
By the way, he's better than like 2/3 of the roster already, to be fair.
Granted, yes, you're right, but this is, like, Cody Rhodes coming out and saying this is GOAT status? Yes, I understand he beat John Cena, but he's not fighting the Doctor. We're not talking about golden shovel burying John Cena. No, we're talking about a guy who's losing his hair that is now known as a character from a comic book, not from being the Doctor of Thugonomics or You Can't See Me. Come on, Logan Paul. Come on.
Speaking of the Doctor of Thugonomics, he will be showing up in Boston for I believe it's Monday Night Raw, not this week, the week after. So I'm wondering if we're going to have him and Austin Theory get into it, or what we're going to find out about John Cena's WrestleMania plans and or opponent.
I hope it's Austin Theory, and I hope he takes the U.S. title from Austin Theory because that would be the greatest thing ever. Because at the end of the day, no matter what, it's still John Cena. John Cena can beat anybody on any given day unless it's like The Undertaker.
At WrestleMania.
But to go back to Elimination Chamber, I'm sorry. The one thing I was the most underwhelmed by was the mixed tag team match. Like the result of that, it was a great match. Beth Phoenix and Rhea Ripley were.
I bet. Beth's botch when she was supposed to break up the pinfall.
Yeah.
Where she got there like a second late, and you can clearly see the referee hold the pin. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
But honestly, I didn't like it because not only did they lose the match, Rhea Ripley should have gotten this win. Rhea Ripley won the Royal Rumble, and I put it in a meme on Monday, and I stand by what I said. If you have won the Royal Rumble, you should not be suffering losses on the road to WrestleMania.
Even if the other got the pin, regardless, dude.
I just it bothered me because Rhea Ripley needed because she's going up against Charlotte Flair, and just like I think it was Chris Brown said that they're going to be in the main event of Night 1. They've announced it. Not a good look when your number 1 contender for the SmackDown Women's Championship is losing in a mixed tag team match at the last premium live event before WrestleMania. Especially if you really want to push Rhea Ripley to be your next big star, and that's clearly what they're doing. And now that they're main eventing, this is just like, is this like last year when they said Becky and Bianca were one of the main events of Night 1 when it was really Captain Cupcake and the Rattlesnake? beating the
Right.
piss out of freaking Kevin Owens. My second favorite part about WrestleMania last year was when Kevin Owens lost.
Yeah.
But that was my biggest thing, and I even said that they should win the match.
And even despite that, even the mess up and even the outcome, it was a very solid match.
It was fantastic.
Outside of those two things, it's like going, everything else, the elements were there, the things they did were there. Clearly, I mean, when you add in the press conference from Elimination Chamber where Austin Theory set out a open challenge and Edge accepted it immediately, said, yeah, I'll challenge him. But they used that. I mean, I love the fact that they're using, like, well, they did Elimination Chamber, Edge and Beth win, you know, Finn took the pinfall there, but they continued the storyline and not quite a straight line, and I enjoyed the fact that, like, going, hey, we're going to get Edge on Monday Night Raw going for the U.S. title. Dude, is he going to win this? Because this feels like a weird possible swerve that they could do, and, you know, spooky pals get involved and spooky things happen.
Yeah. I think the way that they handled that and getting Finn Balor involved, costing Edge the match, and then he beat the shit out of Edge, and now we're probably going to get Demon Finn versus Edge in the Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania. Sign me up.
Yeah.
I'm now convinced Finn Balor is going over at WrestleMania, and that's who Edge wants to put over at WrestleMania. When Edge won the Royal Rumble a couple years ago, he even went down to NXT and said the nice things he said about Finn Balor. He says, you're very capable of me being the guy that challenges you, because you're right there. You're a main event guy. So the fact that 2 years later, he's now going to be fighting Finn Balor at WrestleMania, it's awesome. I would have, obviously, my heart of hearts, I would have loved to have seen Edge and John Cena one more time at WrestleMania, just because it would have just the nostalgia of it.
Yeah.
Or Edge and we already saw Edge and Randy. I had enough of that 2 years ago, so I don't need that again. Or 3 years ago.
Right.
But yeah, I agree. That was the only two things about that match I really just didn't like. Everything else was good. It was the same thing about the whole card. Because even the women's chamber match was pretty solid. The men's chamber match was awesome. I know that Brock and Bobby Lashley was underwhelming, but the fact is that Brock Lesnar did everything he could to avoid wrestling Bray Wyatt, so he got disqualified.
Feelings, Brainless One, on him F5ing not once but twice your favorite referee in all of WWE.
Brock Lesnar will no longer be considered for my Rushmore for attacking referee Chad Patton at Elimination Chamber. I was very upset. He is very, very lucky I didn't give him my Brainless for this week, because he almost got it.
Yeah, unfortunately this week we had a lot of challengers for Bad and Brainless this week.
Oh, yeah. And you know what's...
There was an awful lot of really good stuff, but, like, the Bad and Brainless this week, honestly, it was not difficult coming up with a list for that.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely get into that a bit later.
I might have multiples, by the way.
Here, well, I want to get your response to this. I know they kind of sort of had posed Finn Balor as the leader of the Spooky Pals. But if Rhea Ripley is the one main eventing night one in WrestleMania, and she wins that title at WrestleMania, would you consider her more of a leader than Spooky Pal Finn?
She is. I've been thinking at least for a few weeks, couple months, that she's actually the leader of the Spooky Pals. She's the one that kind of brought in Dom Mysterio. She's mommy. I think that it's a really good combination because of the fact that, you know, her and Priest are, I mean, I don't know, you know, break the kayfabe, you know, tear down the fourth wall and all this shit. Her and Priest are good friends in real life. So it doesn't surprise me that they get along. Finn Balor is the type of person that gets along with everybody. It just seems like I can't think of anybody who can say a bad thing about Finn Balor. I think that once Edge stepped away, I think they wanted to go a little bit different route and let Rhea Ripley get this spot because not for nothing, but she's got the highest upside. She's got the ceiling is, and her potential is just incredible. She's the one that is most likely to be about the future of this company for a long time than the other guys. And it's not a slight on Damian Priest, and it's not a slight on Finn Balor. Finn Balor has had an incredible career. Damian Priest has had a really solid career, and obviously the verdict is still out on Dom Mysterio, but, that's neither here nor there.
Right. I mean, all that time he spent behind bars. Just don't know.
Well,
you just don't know. Speaking of people who should be behind bars but aren't, for a long time, I was a Jeff Harvey apologist. And I'm sorry, but multiple DUIs, and outside of the DUIs, there were public drunkenness issues. And it seems like he is a beloved dude who just has some demons that he's dealing with. But I'm sorry, when you continuously put people in danger, it's not a good look. And I hope this is his wake-up call. I mean, 10 years without a license is going to suck for him, but he's not going to prison.
So
I think he should have spent a little bit more time than he did in the slammer so he could really think about the stuff he did. And for about the 20th time in the last, I'd say 10 years, Matt Hardy talking about how Jeff is in the best place he's seen him in years.
Yeah.
And I really want Jeff to be better. And I really want this to have a good ending. And I hope it does. But I think Jeff should have gotten punished more severely than he did.
I always think of years ago, many, many years, probably over a decade at this point, there was a wide receiver who once upon a time, he played for the Patriots. I want to say he played for the Saints as well. I don't think it was Bethel Johnson, but that's, for whatever reason, that's the name that keeps popping into my head. I could be wrong. But Dante Stallworth, thank you. He was the guy who had the DUI, and then he ran over a pedestrian and killed him. He lost his license forever. And I think that was his first DUI or his first DWI, but obviously vehicular manslaughter on that. He went to jail for like a year. He was kicked out of the NFL for a year, and he lost his license forever. Doesn't have his license ever. Jeff Hardy has had so many chances. It's sickening. And I think that the legal cycle of all of this was where they dropped the ball. He should have done some serious time for this. I'm sorry. He's not going to learn his license. Taking away his license for 10 years, all you're doing is enabling his drinking, and now he's got to find somebody else to drive him around everywhere. Don't you see the writing on the wall, Jeff? Maybe it's time you just stop drinking, bro. But I really feel like they dropped the ball here. They really could have made an absolute example of Jeff Hardy. Because, come on. They think that having a suspended license for 10 years is going to stop him? What happens after 10 years and he starts drinking again and he gets behind the wheel? Then what are you going to do? You're not doing anything by this. I'm sorry. They totally dropped the ball on this.
Like I said, I hope he really does get his stuff together. I really don't want to see him in a wrestling ring again, because clearly I think that's part of a trigger for him that leads him, whether it's drugs or whether it's alcohol. It's not good for him. And, you can't hold his brother to account for him.
Right.
He's done all he can to keep his brother clean. Similar to, Kevin Nash for years. Everybody was like going, hey, keep Scott clean, you know what? Only Scott could keep Scott clean.
Yep.
So I hope this really, truly is a wake-up call for him. I want to see Jeff at Wrestling Fan Fests.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see him in the ring anymore.
He embarrassed himself his debut for AEW. I will never, between that and his, what the hell was it? His match with Sting at, what the hell pay-per-view was that? Oh, crap. But I'll never, I won't forget him for that. And I have been sitting here. It was Victory Road 2009. But I will never, and I can never fathom, and what I would do if I was getting my ass kicked and my brother came to save me and he's dancing as he's coming to save me. I'm like, you know what?
Even for a millisecond.
Even for a hot second. Even if he's just doing this, like the Hardys do. So you see the writing on the wall. And he's doing this.
Wonderkin.
Yeah.
Alex Wright.
Now that's different. Okay. If I was getting my ass kicked and one of my brothers came over and he's doing the Alex Wright Das Wunderkind dance, okay. I might, be a little more lenient on that. Okay, it's the Wunderkind. Okay. You don't have to kick his ass now. But yeah, I didn't agree with that. Yeah, I didn't agree with that either.
Yeah.
Speaking of people in legal issues, this one really caught me off guard. So a fan who attended WrestleMania 38 last year is suing WWE for hearing loss because of the pyrotechnics. I'm not staring at the rollers, looking at the taquitos at 3 o'clock in the morning at 7-Eleven, Jay. Really? My first experience with pyrotechnics at a wrestling show was the first SmackDown I went to in, it was 2011 because it was the summer of Punk, because it was the SmackDown right before Money in the Bank. And Kane wrestled Randy Orton. And Kane's... That sound, I could still hear it. My ears are still ringing to this day, 12 years later. But and it was so hot and all that stuff. But I'll tell you right now, after that, I said, you know what? I can understand that. So now I think of it. Now I cover my ears. How do you go to WrestleMania? Unless it's like the first time you've ever been to a wrestling show, you never experienced anything like. What do you think was going to happen? They tell you to take these precautions before the show.
Yeah. They have a flyover usually at WrestleMania. Guess what? That's loud as hell.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of flyovers, and are they going to sue the U.S. government too because the Air Force flew a little too close or the Navy flew a little too close to the stadium?
It's funny because that was... For me, when I saw that and I read the article and then I closed it down, shook my head for 5 minutes, read the article again just to make sure that's what I read, that was really close to get my brainless this week.
And then some other people did some things.
You mentioned Das Wunderkind because it's another dancing douchebag from 90s WCW that's probably going to get that reward this week. Or award this week, I should say.
Yeah, I'm going a different direction than that.
But Jay, like you said, there's so many different avenues we could go for brainless this week.
It's very feast and famine this week. We got some really incredible stuff, and then we got. You're like, what in the Sam hell is wrong with y'all?
It's like winning tickets. It's like winning tickets to a concert for the next night, and then you pop positive for COVID the next day. That's exactly what Good and Brainless was this week. There was enough for it to be good and enough for it to be brainless.
This is is something that I think is kind of in between, and if I'm reading in between the lines here, one Pat McAfee said he is very uncertain of his WWE future, and specifically, he said in his interview that he doesn't know where his paycheck would be coming from, and more or less, he wants to know where his paycheck is coming from before he decides whether or not he's going to jump in, you know, as being like full-time WWE again.
Well, here's
my mission from that I'm getting from that of all the potential suitors. This is my opinion. He's looking at Saudi Arabia and says no.
Yep.
He would say no to that. I think everybody else he'd be okay with, but specifically Saudi Arabia, he's like no.
It's Saudi Arabia and Tony Khan. Nah, I can't. We'll get into that too. Oh man, I'm not gonna try to make words of what McAfee said, because it looks like WWE wasn't the only thing that he's actually considering. It looks like even his Pat McAfee show is like in the crosshairs for the future. He even said the same thing for College Game Day. He said, I don't know if I even want to do that. He goes, I have baby number 1 on the way. That is more important to me. And I figure, my guess is his wife's due pretty soon. She's going to have the baby. Let it kind of sink in and then reassess the situation going forward. I think WWE would be very, very smart to lock him up long term and give him whatever the hell he wants, because that man has deserved it. Because other than Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, and Cody Rhodes, there's nobody who's been busting his ass to do more for WWE than what McAfee has done since he's gotten into WWE. He has kind of given a jolt into the life of Michael Cole. Michael Cole is not the worst. And I'll say that right now. I've been saying it for years. I can't stand Michael Cole. Michael Cole's not the worst.
Right.
Michael Cole has been there for a long time. There's a reason why Michael Cole has been there for a long time, because he knows what the frig he's doing.
He's not.
I'm off.
Your boy on Monday Night Raw.
Like Adamley? Oh.
No.
Kevin Patrick.
Kevin Patrick.
I explained that to somebody. Somebody was like, what are your thoughts on Kevin Patrick? I said, he's bad. Not like we hate Michael Cole bad. He is Mike Adamley bad. I watched Raw on mute.
He's got a lot of spirit. I'll give him that.
How could you tell? His tone on the microphone is the same as Daniel Garcia's face. It doesn't change. There's no excitement in there. It's just Kevin Patrick. Oh, I could do this. No, you fucking can't. You suck.
Yeah.
Ugh. He is the worst part about Monday Night Raw. He really is. I'm sorry. Between that and the fact that they have two-fourths, I'm a dumb. They have literally half of the championships they should have on Monday Night Raw, and they have that doofus calling matches with Corey Graves. And by the way, how did the Wrestling Observer newsletter vote Corey Graves as the worst commentator in wrestling? I would love to just absolutely die. I don't even really want to give Dave Meltzer the time of day because of how freaking partial that thing was. 4 of the 5 top guys on the microphone are all in AEW. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, like as much as I have a little bit more leniency with Excalibur than when he started, he still sucks.
Yeah. You know,
and JR, I mean, I think he needs to be behind the scenes more and scouting talent more than he needs to be calling matches these days.
Taz is the only one that should be there. Taz is. You said it, JR. I'm telling you that of all the comments,
Taz and Schiavone.
I'd be on board with that, but you know they're going to keep Excalibur around, whether we like to or not. He is atrocious, though.
But You know what? Corey Graves to me is just like a super solid heelish announcer, somewhere between Jesse Ventura and Bobby the Brain Heenan. I think he does great sitting in that pocket and doing his thing.
What I've always appreciated about Corey Graves is that for pretty much almost his entire career as a broadcaster, he's been the heel announcer. But there have been people, and he's done it on both sides too, because there have been people that he has enjoyed, like Nakamura. In all of Shinsuke Nakamura's entire career, he was doing what McAfee just took to a whole other level, because he used to talk him up. There was one of the guys he even mentioned during the Elimination Chamber that I think it was Montez Ford. He said something like, "Yeah, this guy is the real deal and everything." And there are and versely, there are people on the heel side that he says that he feels a certain way about. But
right. So he's not 100% like,
yeah,
in that heel category.
Right. And I've always been one of those ones. I've been a fan of Corey Graves, even since his NXT days on the announcing team. I thought he was really good. He's like a store brand Bobby Heenan.
And that's what WWE is looking for. They don't want them to be as outlandish. And feeding into what Tim's saying, Graves was great calling the women's chamber match. It was similar to when Bobby Heenan was calling the 92 Rumble match.
Yep.
Where like he had a complete like biased rooting interest, but it played to it and it was fun.
Yeah.
I loved Graves during the women's chamber match, talking about everything Carmella did and how great she is. It was fucking awesome.
I enjoy him. The fact that he got voted worst announcer was just an absolute – it's just a travesty. How Jon Moxley is your wrestler of the year when Roman Reigns has been WWE champion for 900 days, hasn't been pinned in about 900 days. But you're going to give it to Jon Moxley, the man of 1,000 blades.
And this isn't a slight on Moxley.
No. Moxley, I would if this is like when they do the NFL where it's the most valuable player or offensive player of the year, or like the most important player on the team, like Jon Moxley is the most important wrestler in AEW, because without Jon Moxley, they're nothing. I'm sorry. You can have all your Jerichos and your Bryan Danielsons and whoever you have over there. Without Jon Moxley and MJF, without Jon Moxley showing up at the first Double or Nothing the way he did, and just having that presence about him and having that confrontation with Jericho and Omega and everything, AEW isn't what it is now. He is the most important person on that roster. He is their most important person right now. But to say that he is the best wrestler of 2022, I'm going to have to disagree. I'm sorry. Roman Reigns' only loss in 2022 was in a match where he got disqualified against Seth Rollins.
Right.
Moxley lost the AEW championship multiple times in 2022. But this is what happens when you got Dave Meltzer, who is in Tony Khan's pocket.
One person who is not in Tony Khan's pocket, Ariel Helwani. This was the more interesting things, at least in my view, that happened this week. It's like he ended up showing up on SmackDown and he showed up at Elimination Chamber, and Tony Khan big time tismed about him showing up. And just the pettiness, I was like going, I think I understand where the Bucks get and feel like they could get away with the stuff they get away with.
Yep. Because this is how I look at it. WWE is the father figure and AEW is the mother figure. Tony Khan is the owner of the promotion that wants to be everybody's best friend. That's what I have to hug this person. I have to hug this person. I have to be this. Everybody's got to be my friend. I have to like this, that, and the other thing. And it's going to come back and it's going to blow up in his face. The fact that I woke up on Saturday morning and saw that made me laugh so hard. And then it just back and forth, the ensuing back and forth on top of it was just even better. And I get it. They made a lot of sense. Ariel Helwani is from Montreal. So obviously you're going to want him because he's going to know what the beat of Montreal is telling you about Sami Zayn. I have zero issue with doing it. Ariel Helwani is basically a combat sports writer. He is not under contract by AEW. He is not obligated to just cover AEW stuff. So if he wants to go out there and do what he did on SmackDown, I have zero issue with it. Tony Khan acting the way he did was just not good. That was another thing that was up there for Brainless for this week. Oh my God, I might have 3 or 4. I'm going to have to mention them all.
All the honorable mentions this week for the shitty things and bad things and brainless things that happened.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, what did he do? He called him the snowman or some shit like that, and I died. I was like, oh my God. I mean, it's just,
Was he making a Smokey and the Bandit reference?
People were,
snowman?
They were like, why do you think he said that? Cornette goes, what do you think?
Not like Hulk Hogan being the snowman or Macho Man being the snowman.
Or Michael Hayes is definitely the snowman. I'm sorry. Michael Hayes is the abominable snowman. Yeah.
Right before Clash 13. Make sure you do our Facebook page and the Brainless One's full report on Clash 13. It was a very in-depth and very intriguing read. Yeah.
Yeah. With the unbiased opinion and everything. That was true. That Tony Khan said about all of that. You have to be unbiased. To Ariel Helwani.
Yeah.
I'm with you too, Timmy. I'm hating AEW. And I'll tell you, they did a great job on Dynamite this week, but it's because the Elite wasn't on the show. They had over 1 million for the entire show. And it wasn't because Twinkle Toes and the dickheads weren't with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I agree. It's definitely ego and power that definitely gets to Tony Khan's head. Absolutely. Because he's got all this money that his dad's giving him, and he's basically, I'm telling you, Jay, that you have to, and everybody, really, you just have to listen to the episode of Cornette where he talks about how Tony Khan used to do this shit where he does this fantasy booking, and all AEW is just his shows when he was a kid or a young adult booking with his friends, kind of like what I used to do back in the day where I used to get stoned and book WrestleManias on my WWE 2K games. But you know what? It was fun.
Effin' Marks Hall of Famer Tim says he can't wait for Omega to show up in WWE and sink AEW.
No, it won't. Because I'll tell you right now, Kenny Omega does not have the mental makeup to work in WWE. He's my age. So he's 40. He missed almost an entire year with his last injury. He's had an abundance of injuries over the last couple of years. And this is not just because of how I feel about him as a wrestler and a human being. This is just straight up facts. He was in the top, 10, 15, 20 in the PWI's top 5 million of the year last year. He wrestled 3 matches and they were all 6-man tag matches. He can't stay healthy. His best match that he's had in the last year and a half, 2 years was the match he just had with Will Ospreay for New Japan. I don't think he has the mental makeup to last. He's not going to be able to last being in that locker room with all those egos and everything like that. And you think the egos are bad in AEW.
But I think WWE's touring schedule that they have.
Too.
One thing for Omega, he loves being in Japan so much. He loves the fact that AEW allows him to go back to Japan whenever he needs his ego stroked to tell him he is the greatest thing ever by Dave Meltzer in Tokyo. And I think it would be interesting to get Kenny Omega in WWE and see what they would do to book him and see who they would put him against. I would love to get into what you talked about last week, where you have a camera mounted somewhere and you see him interact with Brock.
I want them to do it at the Scope in Norfolk, right down the road. The first time Kenny Omega and Brock Lesnar cross paths. And I don't want to see it on the camera. I want to be backstage when it happens. I want to be the only person backstage. I'll do like that Make-A-Wish shit if I have to. I need to see this in my life. I need to see Brock Lesnar cross paths with Kenny Omega. And I just want to hear...
I think Brainless One makes a lot of sense.
And I'll say this, because you know Brock's going to say something. What's Kenny going to do? Is he going to go cry to Triple H? Cry to Vince McMahon? Get the fuck out of my office.
I mean, look at the fact that lately, in the last couple of times Brock has showed up, he has done things outside of the script, outside of the plan. They are not punishing Brock for this.
I think it's a bunch of bullshit that they're actually, like, he's going off script. I think they're just kind of planting that to make it seem like that's what the case was, because it looks like something that would go off script, even though it's something that Brock Lesnar would do.
It's certainly possible that they could do that.
Oh, and we're going to talk about scripts. What about the fact that they're doing this Omos challenging Brock Lesnar? So you get this is what I love. So Brock Lesnar gets himself disqualified last week at Elimination Chamber against Bobby Lashley after Bray Wyatt on Friday said that he is challenging whoever wins the the Brock Lesnar Bobby Lashley. There's too many B's in these matches. Bray, Brock, yeah. Bobby. But he said he's going to challenge the winner of that. So Brock Lesnar gets disqualified, throws Bobby Lashley through a freaking table with referee Chad Patton. But now, after that, we got Omos challenging Brock Lesnar to a match at WrestleMania. Omos. So we went from Gunther and Brock Lesnar to Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar to Omos. I mean, if Chris Brown's right, and this is like Omos is kind of bringing in Brock Lesnar to kind of be like the bait to have the Hurt Business go for it. I'm on board with it. If it leads to Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley wrestling at WrestleMania to kind of like finally end that feud, yes. Nobody's going to want to see Brock Lesnar and Omos. People are going to want to spend more money to watch Jeff Jarrett wrestle than to watch Brock Lesnar and Omos.
Omos, when he went against Braun Strowman, lost. The perception of Brock Lesnar is higher than Braun Strowman.
Brock,
how does this like a WrestleMania-worthy match, other than bringing in the Hurt Business and making it something more than that? As far as one of the other comments going about Tony Khan being Dixie Carter 2.0, I disagree with that fairly highly, because Dixie Carter and her family were not fans of professional wrestling beforehand. They didn't really know too much. They knew about business. They did not know about wrestling. I think they learned some stuff about wrestling. But Tony Khan clearly has been a fan of professional wrestling. He's fantasy booking, and he was quote unquote named fantasy or named Booker of the Year in 2022.
Booker and promoter, both.
But you know, when it comes to all this stuff, Tony Khan is not the worst. He's not, in my view, not Dixie Carter 2.0. I think he's just a dude who like realizes he has a whole bunch of, at least in my opinion, play toys that he gets to book in, like, ooh, what if I do this? Oh, what if I do that? What if I do this? What if I do that? And it seemed like at the very beginning he had a long-term, like, you know, he talked about how the first like 4 or 5 champions he had clearly like a path for all of them, and now it feels like he's not doing Vince McMahon where he changes his mind 30 seconds after he made the decision. But there isn't a high level of consistency, and it's really tough to figure out what the hell is going on. Who's supposed to be the really big deals and who's not supposed to be the big deal, because it changes a bunch.
I think the reason for all of the chaos and the fact that there's just everything's just kind of going in a whirlwind thing is because of the fact that CM Punk worked with a bunch of fucking children who couldn't manage a target. That's where it all went downhill.
Target, would you be offended by that?
I would. I've shut enough people up in my arguments with them about Kenny Omega by telling them that I've had to endure 11 minutes of him wrestling a blow-up doll. And if you can sit there and watch that match and tell me that wrestling is great, then really you have no idea what wrestling is. But if I was a manager at Target and they were like, yeah, Kenny Omega and Nick and Matt Jackson should be managers at Target, and you go and you Google it, and the first thing that pops up is Kenny Omega 11 minutes with a sex doll, you're going to start questioning, maybe I should go start working at, like, Home Depot.
So are you saying Kenny Omega should, when he goes to WWE, be part of the Banger Brothers?
No, I think Kenny Omega goes to WWE. I hope Triple H gives him the Target manager gimmick. Actually, no, I think he might actually pull off the Karen gimmick better than Chelsea Green is right now. And that's not a slight on Chelsea Green.
Yeah, not at all.
I'll say this, because a lot of people have been coming out and just been absolutely against her and everything. Like, oh, look at her, that she's basically a jobber. She's been on TV so much since she returned at the Royal Rumble. Who gives a shit if she's losing these matches? She's getting exposure. People are going to people need to, what is it? People need to learn how to snow. Oh, there's an old expression for that. You have to learn how to crawl before you can walk. And honestly, she
wasn't at the last few shows that they had, specifically because of green card issues. Like, she's in the U.S. right now, and if she actually would have gone back home to Canada, they weren't sure if she was going to be able to actually come back into the United States. So I thought it was interesting how they actually dealt with that.
There's been a lot of people been having visa issues and traveling issues. I mean, it's almost to a point where, like, do you even really want to travel to the United States?
I think the thing that's interesting about this is, like, she is married to Matt Cardona at this point. Like, shouldn't that, like, you're in the country, like, you should be able to freely flow from your native country just north of the border to back to the United States, but apparently not so.
Unless you're Brock Lesnar. Yeah. Imagine like one of those mounted police. Halt there. You are not allowed to step foot into the United States. What was that? What did that there, buddy?
Once thou came.
Oh, that's it. And Brock Lesnar just picks up one of the Mounties and just F5s him, and then grabs another Mountie and F5s him, and then grabs a Moose and F5s it. But not Jacques Rougeau, obviously. Nobody could do that to Jacques Rougeau. He is the GOAT of Mounties.
Except for SummerSlam.
And he was one of the best people on the dark side of the ring, too. Who am I? Well, I'm the Mountie.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Since we were on the topic of AEW, we did mention earlier about how Moxley bled. I mean, Moxley was going for his 100th victory. Evil Uno last week, because Evil Uno is kind of friends with Hangman Page, and obviously at Revolution, we're going to be getting Hangman Page versus John Moxley. But Moxley, in his match against Evil Uno, did become the first wrestler in AEW to reach 100 victories. Well deserving, because if anybody deserved it, it was him. I'm surprised Jericho really wasn't the one that actually got to 100 wins first, but that's neither here nor there. But the one thing I took away from that was a hell of a match.
Right.
They had some really good wrestling matches on Wednesday. That match was excellent. Orange Cassidy and Wheeler Yuta.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to you. That has like an outside chance unless there's something. I mean, obviously there's going to be matches later on this year, but that has an outside chance of winning my heart for match of the year this year.
I'm just going to put a pause on what you just said there, because in an upcoming MSG, or I think it's MSG house show, that is how they're determining who is going against Gunther at WrestleMania. One of the people involved in that match is Sheamus. We could be getting a rematch at WrestleMania between the GOAT and the other GOAT.
I'm sorry, Jay. It doesn't matter if those guys have unless those two have the single greatest wrestling match, and unless it's in the Tokyo Dome and Okada and Omega are a part of it, I don't see it happening. The only thing that Sheamus is winning this year is going to be my mark-out moment of the year if he wins the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania.
It feels like we're going to that.
I've decided that if Sheamus does win the Intercontinental Championship to become the super ultra Grand Slam champion of GOATs in WWE history, the shaving, the waxing that I didn't have to do for Sammy winning, I will do it if Sheamus does it. I was going to shotgun a Guinness, but I think this is so much better. Unless you all want to see me shotgun a Guinness.
I mean, we do have that footage of you shotgunning a beer. What? Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Nobody has that video of me shotgunning the oh boy, what a beer.
No,
Natty Bo.
We don't.
Oh
boy, what a beer.
It took me longer to shotgun that than it takes me to drink a regular beer out of a glass.
Sad. That would be a great T-shirt, Tim. That would be a great T-shirt. All right. One thing I want to bring up is Jay White lost a loser leaves town match in New Japan, which means he is not going back to New Japan, clearly. What are your thoughts, Brainless One, on where he lands?
Well, first, I find it ironic that it was my boy Eddie Kingston that ended Jay White's run in New Japan Pro Wrestling, making him a free agent. It would make sense that it would be Eddie Kingston that would beat him, that would lead to Jay White going to AEW. However, I do see Jay White as the big free agent out there, and I think that he would be. I think WWE is going to sign him.
When do you feel we will see him? Day after WrestleMania?
It depends on what they do with Randy Orton. It depends on how. I mean, this still is Triple H's first year in control of creative. So obviously, what happens at WrestleMania, allegedly, but this could be a big deal if it's Randy. I mean, obviously, Randy Orton can come back at any time, and it's going to be a big deal because it's freaking Randy Orton. Obviously, it would make a lot of sense for him to come out for the Raw after WrestleMania. Hell, he can come out at WrestleMania. That could be your thing. Cody Rhodes wins the championship, and let's say Jay White is the one that comes out in face-to-face with him in the ring at the end of WrestleMania when he's holding up both championships. Look a hell of a lot better than if it was Twinkle Toes.
Ooh.
All this that has been kind of like been ignored in all this. Who's the new leader of the Bullet Club? I was like, wait a minute, Jay White is the leader of the Bullet Club. Could it be?
Eddie Kingston, the leader of the Bullet Club? I mean, when Dorothy killed the Wicked Witch, she became the head of the armies of darkness in Oz. Welcome to Oz!
Jay, do you know who it could be? Kenta. Hideo Itami.
I heard he got injured tweeting about a certain other injured performer being at a New Japan show.
The fact that
you elaborate a little bit on that, Brainless One.
The fact that CM Punk was actually at that New Japan show that they had, where Kenta won whatever championship he won. I want to say he beat Darren Young, Freddie Rouser for the championship. CM Punk happened to be in the crowd for that. I want to say Muta actually had his last match in that card, where he lost twice for whatever reason. He's still going in the Hall of Fame. I don't care. Muta is going in our Hall of Fame at the end of the year. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Muta's going in by the end of this year. But the fact that he saw CM Punk and made a comment about it, he goes, "Oh yeah, see the guy who stole my finisher is in the crowd to watch me wrestle." And I'm like, I'm surprised you didn't get hurt after you sent out that tweet. Surprised you didn't.
He put himself in his own hurt lock.
I'm surprised you didn't say that Punk was trying to steal his gimmick with the injury. Jessica, that is a very interesting question. Miro, I've heard so many different things. Like Miro first didn't want to put over Orange Cassidy for the All-Atlantic Championship. Then I heard he didn't want to put over Powerhouse Hobbs. So they just don't have anything for Miro right now, which is incredible. The Redeemer doesn't have anything in AEW to do. We get the Elite and AR Fox and Top Flight having a basketball game on Rampage, but we can't find anything for Miro to do. Action Andretti is. I'm pretty sure that Action Andretti and your favorite pizza. What the hell was his name? The pizza dude.
Right. Oh, Luigi Primo.
Luigi Primo. I think we've seen those guys more recently than we've seen frickin' Miro.
You know when we're going to see Miro? He's going to go against the Big Show next month when Big Show makes his appearance and wrestles again. It's going to be sad.
I agree, Chris Brown. I really think that he needs to go back to WWE because I think he's better off in Triple H's WWE than he is in AEW. But
not Vince's WWE. Speaking of Vince, though,
let's do it.
There are allegations out there that maybe, just maybe, Vince is back in creative in some way, shape, or form. Now, I stated months ago when Vince got himself back on the board that he could not help himself. It's WrestleMania season. It's Royal Rumble. He couldn't help himself. And we heard these little things here and there about how Vince was making suggestions to Triple H. Does Vince McMahon make suggestions?
Probably. Doesn't mean that they have to listen to his suggestions.
Do you think he really suggests stuff and, like, they say no?
Jay,
or does he suggest stuff and they're like going, well, let's make sense of what this crazy old bastard just said?
Jay, they delivered a message to Vincent Kennedy McMahon at the Royal Rumble by having Elias go out there and Michael Cole the entire time Elias was in the ring and the entire time on the way back to the locker room after he got eliminated in 37 seconds. All he did was talk about, all this since Elias' return, since his brother got taken out, and that was, they roasted him. It was like I was at a roast and freaking the only person that was missing is what's his face, Jeff Ross was the only thing missing for what at the broadcast table when they were roasting Elias. So I think he probably puts input in, but Triple H is like, okay, thanks, Dad.
the main thing that makes me feel that he is not certainly in control of this, we don't see 5,000 rematches. That is the only thing in me that says he does not have final say at this moment.
Johnny Gargano.
Again, in my opinion, I think Vince right now is riding the wave of Triple H's popularity with how he's booking things. And once the company is sold, Vince will take back control of the book and it will become what it was.
Or he's just waiting for Triple H to fuck up royally on something. Just to be like, all right, we tried this, now I got to take over. But I'm convinced he's not part of creative because Johnny Gargano wrestled in a meaningful match at a premium live event. Johnny Gargano.
It didn't look like a freaking tool bag.
No. I love the spot that they had where him and Seth Rollins had Theory in the freaking pot and they were just beating the shit out. That was my favorite part of the... I'm sorry. It was one of my favorite parts of that. That match was just awesome. I'm sorry. That match was just awesome. I best book thing. And the fact that it was Jamie Noble and the Monster Abyss were the producers for that made it even that much better. I said it when they were bringing Abyss on, when he was Christopher Parks, and they were having him do that thing with AJ Styles. I really wish they had done something with that with him because I think he would have made whatever it was they gave him work. Plus the fact that they should send him out more for the pull-away brawls because who's going to stop Abyss?
On the whole idea of pull-apart brawls, MJF and Bryan Danielson on Wednesday, I have to give a shout-out to Pat Buck in his pants. Did you see those things? They've gone plaid.
They've gone plaid. I mean, he shops at the same store that Seth Rollins shops at, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, minus the red boots.
Oh, yes. But that's because Seth Rollins is mad that you stole the title of Best Dressed Male Marquee Award this year from him, and he's doing a damn good job of trying to win it back. The boots might have won it for him this year. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh. But speaking of people having issues in WWE, apparently WWE, there might be some animosity between them and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson over what is happening with WrestleMania this year. Apparently that they thought that The Rock was going to be there, and they were hoping that it was going to be Roman versus The Rock, and The Rock basically said last month that I'm not going to have enough time to get into shape to wrestle at WrestleMania. And now that there's been reports that there's some animosity between WWE and The Rock over this whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, they're putting on a pretty good front of saying, hey, you know, it just didn't happen this year, and we hope he comes back. The fact that they have Tamina out in the media saying everybody in the family wants him to come back to WWE, even his mother, and more or less trying to put the onus on, like, well, clearly The Rock doesn't want to come back to WWE. And to an extent, I agree with that. They knew they were going to Hollywood. Rock is either the biggest or one of the biggest stars in all of Hollywood.
He's not Denzel.
At this WrestleMania made a whole lot of sense. They announced it 18 months ago. He could have cleared his schedule if he really, really wanted to do this and said to his agent, manager, said, I'm going to do WrestleMania.
Yep.
Clear my schedule. I'm going to get myself ready. I'm going to do this. I don't know if he made that implication to WWE. I think there's a big part of The Rock wants to, because WrestleMania 40, you know, it's an anniversary thing, a big anniversary thing, wants to have the cap on his career be at 40. Even though LA makes more sense if you're talking spectacle and being a big deal, I could somewhat understand why he wants to do 40, but if there were some implications there about having the match with Roman, it sucks. It's kind of a dick move.
It's just funny to me because you know who's going to be there no matter what, because it's in Hollywood. John Cena. I think that we have reached a point in our lives as fans of professional wrestling that John Cena has earned the right and our respect that he is now he's in GOAT status now. John Cena he doesn't get booed anymore. He doesn't deserve to get booed anymore. He has put in his time. He has busted his ass. He has gone on to different ventures. And the funny thing is with John Cena is even though he's in Hollywood, he's still John Cena. So we know at any given time John Cena can beat anybody in the WWE because he's John Cena. And I'll tell you right now, the fact that with everything that's going on with The Rock, I think it's funny now that Cena's, because obviously we'll find out not this Monday, but the following Monday when he's in Boston, I'm sure he's going to say, I'm going to WrestleMania. Because he's John Cena, and he's going to, tell the fans that they can't see him and all this stuff. And I'm sure Theory's going to challenge him. I don't care. John Cena's going to be there. It'd be even funnier if The Rock's not going to be there in Hollywood and they put Batista in the Hall of Fame that year. Because then you would have John Cena and Batista, who are Hollywood movie stars, both of which are actually better as actors than The Rock. Sorry, not afraid to admit it. But The Rock doesn't have time for them. I get the XFL just started this past weekend. I'm already sold. I love the XFL again. It's great. It's football. But I agree. Jay, why didn't he just say to his agent, I need this time. It's WrestleMania. It's in Hollywood. I am The Rock. I am the biggest star in Hollywood. I should be at WrestleMania this year. There you go. Mm. And it's rumored that Batista is the headliner for the Hall of Fame this year.
He was supposed to be the headliner in 2020, and clearly a whole bunch of stuff happened in the world to make that not happen. Batista, clearly very deserving of a Hall of Fame bout. Also very deserving is The Rock. Yep. It's interesting that The Rock currently is not in the Hall of Fame, even though he really hasn't been active in the last 10 years. I mean, he had the 6-second match against Captain Wedgie, who also had a stairs match at Extreme Rules one year. And I can't wait for the Cinnamon Toast Crunch stairs match at WrestleMania between Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar. And if you have not subscribed to our YouTube page, make sure you do that so you can see our video about the Cinnamon Toast Crunch match between Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Anyway.
If they really want to win me over this year, Jay, and they really want to kind of bring me back into the Hall of Fame, because I'm going to give Triple H a chance here to kind of bring us back for the Hall of Fame. Until they get out of that Saudi contract, I'm not going to give a shit about any of that stuff. But the Hall of Fame, they could do me right. And they have to put in Cyndi Lauper this year. That is the biggest crime of all of the celebrity people in the Hall of Fame. She is not in, and it is the biggest. I think it's just as it was that Vader and King Kong Bundy weren't in for all those years. She was the pioneer of the rock and wrestling 80s movement that brought us to where we are today.
And will they put her in this year where it's like in LA? And I know LA is more Hollywood, but there's also a big music scene out there. Or do you sit there and say, you know what, Cyndi Lauper was one of the things that sold WrestleMania 1. Let's put her on, stamp her on 40. 40 years since or technically 39 years since she helped usher in professional wrestling on the national scene and not just a regional thing with the territories. Yep. Do they wait for that specifically where it's a lot closer to New York?
No. You got.
I wouldn't be against that, but it would be much better if they did it this year.
They just got to put her in.
She did.
No, absolutely. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, yeah, she could put her in next year. I'm not saying that, she's got, like, serious health issues or any of that stuff. If she's around, just put her in. Why are we having this conversation in 2023? I don't know.
Put Demolition in.
Or the Midnights. And it's funny because somebody asked Cornette about that. And they said if they put the Midnight Express in, how do you think it would be? And he said, this is terrible. He goes, they waited too long to put the Midnight Express in because the person who would have loved and gotten a kick out of a Hall of Fame induction and given a speech would have been Beautiful Bobby. I think Dennis Cordry has...
And Sweet Stan are still alive, still doing their thing, and more or less, Dennis Condrey doesn't really do stuff like that, and Sweet Stan would rather just stay home.
Yeah. And I know that their health, like he said, like health-wise, it's going to take a lot for them, especially to get out to California. He goes somewhere maybe closer to them. If they were in the South somewhere, yeah, I could have, it would have been easier to put them in, but like now, no. He goes, you guys dropped the ball. You should have done it when Bobby Eaton was still around, and I agree. Bobby Eaton was the heart and soul of the Midnight Express. Bobby Eaton is one of the most grossly underrated wrestlers in wrestling history. Plus, what are you going to do? You're going to put Cornette in? That would be the ultimate. You bring in Jay White, Cody Rhodes wins the WWE Universal Championship, and James E. Cornette goes into the Hall of Fame in the same weekend. If that doesn't make the Elite and freaking Tony Khan's heads explode, I don't know what would. But Cornette's like, he goes, I'm not going to do that. He goes, I'm going to have to, sign the Legends contract, and I don't want to do that. And I make more money doing this than I would if I was on the Legends contract, and they would have to bring me in, whatever. It's like, no.
Right.
But I agree with him. They've waited too long to put in too many people. Bruiser Brody should have gotten in years ago. Yeah.
And that's why I'm going to take the wait and see approach with what they do this year because Vince possibly is not involved. If some of the teams that have been, whether it's a team or a person who have been grossly omitted from the Hall of Fame. Like, I know you're not a big fan of Lex Luger, but the dude deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
I said it in my piece at the beginning of the year. I said the 10 things I want to see happen in 2023. I want to see Lex Luger in the Hall of Fame.
You get Luger, you get Demolition, and a couple of the other people that clearly Vince had a thing against.
Tugboat.
From Norfolk.
But he has to get inducted as the Shockmaster.
That's called the Shockmaster!
But it's like you have Drew Carey in. You have Coco Beware in. You have the Bella Twins in.
You have Nikolai Coffin. It was interesting hearing Nikki Bella talk about how WWE was not very fond of the success of Total Divas and then the spinoff Total Bellas. Quite honestly, this feels like the Z True Long Island story on steroids. The Bellas were booked, I think in general, during that division, well for what that division was at the time. But the fact that WWE was upset with them getting over like they did, and it felt like WWE could no longer control them. As much as normally I don't side with the Bellas, I will in this case, because you get over, I mean, they were almost getting the numbers that the Kardashian family was. I'm not saying that they were as popular as influencers, but like they got themselves over on that show, and WWE took them to a certain level, and certainly being engaged to John Cena took them to a certain level.
Bryan Danielson.
But hey, like, you gotta show respect for the fact that people want to tune in for that. They wanted to tune in for Zack Ryder. The Rock put over Zack Ryder, but because he did it on his own, WWE screwed him over, and it sounds like in general they kind of sort of did the same thing with the Bellas. Now the Bellas, again, were the top of the top as far as the women's division was at that time. But when you're trying to purposely like on, oh, well, we don't really have control of you anymore because guess what? You're making the money that you can outside of WWE. Quite honestly, this is similar to the Mandy Rose stuff. Mandy Rose was doing more outside of WWE and making more outside of WWE than she was in the company.
Well, my biggest takeaway from what they were saying, the Bella Twins, is that they said that they drew people to WWE because of the Total Divas and the Total Bellas show. I could tell you in the entire time of Total Divas and Total Bellas, and believe me, when everybody who knew me knows that I've been a wrestling fan since I was 5. I could talk about wrestling with anybody about any genre, any era of wrestling, and any company I could talk to you about it because I know wrestling. I've had a total of, guess how many people, Jay, I've ever had talk to me about Total Bellas and Total Divas?
2!
One dude I used to work with, he used to say that he watched the show because, quote unquote, the Bellas were hot.
Okay.
Never watched Raw, never watched SmackDown, just watched Total Divas and Total Bellas for the Bella Twins. And the other one was my cousin Chrissy.
Well, think about the number of people you know and multiply that by the amount of people within the United States. Let's say they got 2 people out of 1,000, but you multiply that by the 300 and let's say 50 million who actually live here right now. That's it. That's a significant number. It's nothing to sneeze at. Even so, I mean, WWE putting a stomp on, like, oh crap, they became big enough where we're not necessary anymore. It's not that off from The Rock, except for The Rock is a bigger deal.
I think it was.
Doesn't need to be, and you know, as much as WWE probably wants their people to succeed outside of the industry, I don't think they want them to succeed that much.
I agree with Tim. I think that the Bellas think that they're a bigger deal than what they really are. Because if you think about it, when you think of female professional wrestlers, who are the first? What's the first one? Who's the first? When I say female wrestler all time, first one out of your mouth?
Trish
Stratus. It's either Trish, or you think of Medusa, or you think of Wendy Richter, or you think of Lita, or you think of Moolah, you think of Charlotte, you think of Becky, you think of a lot of different people before you even get to the Bella Twins. And we've had this discussion about the men, about which of the men are in the top class of, like, in the Cenas and the Hogans and the Austins and the Rocks. And I know you and I disagree on where Bret Hart is. I'm still convinced Bret is up there, but that's for another day. The Bella Twins aren't anywhere near the top. They're not even in that second tier. Because At the end of the day, what have they done in their careers that stood out? Is there a match that they were in that really stood out other than the Brie Bella? Like, they did a thing on rivalries between Brie Bella and Stephanie McMahon. I was like, why? It wasn't that good of a story. It was predictable. And you're only doing it just to pander to the Bellas. That's what the whole problem is. You got all these, they just have to pander to them. Why? What have they done? Their stepfather is a piece of shit. Brie Bella on national television gave Liv Morgan a concussion. And the only thing more nauseating was Nikki Bella during that whole thing with John Cena and that whole build up to that WrestleMania with the Miz and Maurice. The only good thing that came from the Total Bellas was what the Miz and Maurice did in the build up to that WrestleMania. The Miz earned his awesome from that because that was one of the best. They were both. That was great. I loved it. But
I hear everything that you're saying 100%, but I definitely have a little bit more like, I could see where WWE was like kind of sort of undermining them by not giving them, whether it was better matches or better stories. And you know me, I'm no fan of Nikki Bella. Like Brie Bella, I think she was. I think Brie actually enjoyed wrestling where Nikki wanted to become a star.
Yep, I agree.
Beyond that, you did bring up Maurice, and I just have to mention a former WWE star who nobody wants to see wrestle ever again. but like said something that you would expect to come out of like a sophomore in high school's mouth.
When they tag team the Maurice's tits were the tag team champions or something like that. Oh my god, I laughed so hard when I saw that. I saw it on Wrestle Cringe and and it made me laugh really hard.
Maurice is a beautiful woman. Do you really need to say that?
No. Unnecessary.
If you're not a year-old boy, do you need to say that? This guy wants to get back into professional wrestling. If he ended up in a WWE locker room, if I were The Miz, the first thing I would do was pounce on him. I don't care if Ryback beat the crap out of me. I would go after him for being a shithead, for saying that about my wife.
Yeah, I agree. But I'll say this though, in defense of Ryback ever wrestling again, I'm in the minority who actually wants to see Ryback wrestle again. But only he can't get any kind of a push. He can't be a main event guy. He's got to do what he was doing before, where they were just feeding him fucking 47 damn enhancement talents a freaking a night. Feed me more. Give me his minute and 12 seconds that he gets in the ring. Where, finish him. That's all I want to see him for is that. And I don't want to see him in WWE. I don't want to see it in AEW. Just give him an empty arena and just let him fight these dudes for like a minute and a half, and then that's it.
Vanguard, baby. Vanguard Championship Wrestling.
And there was another... Emma. Chris Brown asked about Emma. The last time I saw her, Madcap Moss got buried by Gunther.
Oh, Jimmy hasn't heard from Jay, bro. After he got super kicked by Sammy and just walked out on the whole thing.
Bro. Speaking of former WWE divas, former diva Saraya, former diva Paige, who's now known as Saraya in AEW, came out this week and said that a fan paid her $50 to rip up his sign. You're going to see it tonight on Rampage, spoiler alert, because she has her match against, I think, Sky Blue or some shit like that, or whatever the hell it was, is tonight on Rampage. But she said that a fan paid her $50 to rip up a sign. I quote tweeted it. I don't remember if it was on my personal page or on the F and Marks page, because I wanted to make sure it was saved, because I wanted to make sure I didn't like imagine it or dreamt it or, you know, some other reasons. But it made me think. Somebody paid Saraya $50 to rip up that sign, which means somebody paid Saraya $50, which is more money than somebody paid to see Jeff Jarrett, which means at the end of the day, Saraya has drawn more money in wrestling than Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to bring that up.
And with AEW, so while we're on the topic of AEW, a couple of things came out this week. You know, Tony Khan had a big announcement to make on Wednesday. I mean, my thought was like, hey, are we finally getting streaming service? Is he going to announce the next Forbidden Door? Oh, by the way, it looks like based off of, I forget what it was, but Forbidden Door 2 will be June 24th this year, by the way. But no. Tony Khan's big announcement is that we have AEW All Access. All Access, which means you will get to dig deeper into some of the personal lives of AEW superstars. Superstars, including one Adam Cole, baby.
Adam Cole, baby.
As well as Mr. Britt Baker. We're going to have Wardlow on it. Some of your favorites, the Young Bucks, as well as Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti. What do you think, Brainless One, about the big announcement?
There is one person who I cannot wait for their AEW All Access episode, and that is one Eddie Kingston. Because Eddie Kingston said that it was he tweeted about it. He's now one of my favorite followers on Twitter. He's funny as shit. He goes, I'll be honest with you all. He goes, they had these people follow me. I didn't want them to record me because I cuss a lot. I swear a lot. He goes, that's all right, Eddie. We're still going to use it. I can't wait. It's going to be great because he's going to be out there with like smoking a Newport. I fucking hate that guy as he goes in there and knocks out Sammy Guevara. But why are we getting Sammy Guevara in Tay Conti's episode?
To annoy you.
That's going to be the least viewed of all of the episodes, and that says a lot because the Bucks are going to have them. What is your thoughts on AEW All Access?
Well, I thought the fact that like they hyped this as a big announcement, this felt super underwhelming. I thought it was going to be like, to me, the bigger deal is that Adam Cole is going to have his first match on March 1st. And they kind of buried that to talk about this show that's coming on after Dynamite. I think the idea of, hey, we have AEW on, we're going to have a certain level of viewership, and there are going to be people who want to tune in and have more wrestling content to watch after that. But I don't see this as much different from, they call it unscripted, but it feels like it's going to be total divas, total Bellas, and not a truly realistic thing outside of maybe Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston does not play a character. Eddie Kingston plays Eddie Kingston.
Eddie Kingston is Eddie Kingston. I really, Jay, when they said that he was, like, I didn't even see the other names. I saw Eddie Kingston and laughed. Because I said it doesn't even matter what the other episodes are, because nothing's going to be better than Eddie Kingston's episode on this. I might watch it as much as I watched WrestleMania 17's TLC 2 match. And then the Gimmick Battle Royal right after.
Clash 13.
Oh no, Jay, there's no wrestling show I've watched more than Clash 13. I can safely say that right now. And I'll even double down and say that I have now seen the Z-Man versus Primetime Brian Lee as like one of the 5 most watched matches for me. That's like Daniel Bryan. I mean, it's not quite Daniel Bryan Sheamus. It's not TLC 2 quite yet, but we're getting close.
Braun Strowman.
James Ellsworth and Braun Strowman. You know what? I'm just going to watch some Ryback matches after this anyway. I'm going to have to throw in Strowman and Ellsworth. As long as I get, any man with 2 fans has a fighting chance. Isn't it Gronk spikes him into the ground? Oh.
But, I'm hopeful for this next run for Adam Cole that we get a good, solid run that, he's completely healthy. And I'm sure most of this is geared towards Adam Cole and Britt Baker, their relationship, and the fact that, Adam Cole coming back from what he came back from. And finding out that, next Forbidden Door is in June. And I guess we're going to find out after Revolution here who we're going to get to see. Will we get to see Okada this year go through that Forbidden Door? I mean, he should have gone through the Forbidden Door instead of Nicholas, but, it is what it is.
Chris Brown, they're going to start off the Moxley episode with him at Costco buying blades. Hello, Mr. Moxley. Glad to see you again. Oh, another 700 pack? I guess you'll be back next month.
To be about Renee saying, like, why do you have to bleed so much, John? Why?
Moxley, he answers the door like MTV Cribs. Hi, I'm John Moxley. Blood's gushing from his head. Oh, how did that happen? I must have hit my head on the banister.
Yeah.
He's at Costco buying the 7,000 packs of blades. It's why my beard looks like this. John Moxley has caused it so we have a blade shortage in this country. At what point is he going to need a blood transfusion for all the blood loss he's going to have? He's going to be like Al Bundy in that episode. It's going to be like that episode of Married with Children where Al sells all 9 pints of his blood. You don't need blood. You just need fluid on the brain. That's why I'm drinking this beer.
One ECW, I don't know if you could call him legend, but, somebody who is big deal in ECW. It made some waves in WWE. One Stevie Richards apparently is not doing extremely well these days. I hear it has something to do with a DVD battery pack that he purchased a long time ago. And it really has weighed him down.
Jay, 20 years later, I still think about that. I lay in bed at night thinking about that. And it's not because of the fact that I sold him the wrong portable DVD battery extender. It's the look on his face when he was at the customer service desk. And him and my assistant manager were basically talking shit about me because I was stupid enough to sell him the wrong thing. And then he kind of left Circuit City. In a frenzy, and I still lay up at night thinking about that, because unlike another ECW original, RVD, who I had such a wonderful experience with when I met him, the experience I had with Stevie Richards will forever haunt me for the rest of my life, and it really does upset me that he is going through what he's going through. I know it's like he's having back issues. They were like, oh, he's having some health issues. I'm like, oh man, I'm like, I hope he doesn't like cancer or something like that. And they're like, oh, his back. Not that I'm discounting it, because I can tell you, having a bad back sucks. It really does, because once your back is fucked up, you're pretty much fucked for the rest of your life. But thank you for the fact that I now can lay in bed tonight until about 3:30 in the morning thinking about Stevie Richards.
I mean, it could be you. It could be you that has caused the back problems, not the fact that he was a pro wrestler in the ring taking bumps for all those years.
Yep.
It was that portable DVD battery that really weighed on him for the past 20 plus years. He just could not deal with it.
I'm going to find him on social media and apologize to him for that.
Sorry, Stevie.
You're that asshole from Newington.
In all seriousness, like, you know what? I hope that he's able to get the help that he needs for his back, and he's able to lead a normal life. He's not that old. Be that debilitated at this age. It just goes to show you what they put themselves through, what they put their bodies through to entertain us, and we need to have an awful lot of respect for what they do, even if they're the big cat. If they're bringing kitty litter bags to a pro wrestling show.
Oh man. Memories.
Pray and wish you well, Stevie Richards, Dancing Stevie Richards, Right to Censor Stevie Richards, Stevie CW.
He was Steven Richards in the Right to Censor, because I remember they all had like their proper names.
Very proper. Yes.
Instead of Val Venus, it was Valuable Venus.
Right. What was the Good Father?
The Good Father, Bull Buchanan. Bull Buchanan, at every stable he has been in, he's just been the guy who's in a stable just to be in the stable. Right. He would fit in perfect in AEW today, because everybody fits in a stable in AEW. Because even if you get kicked out of one stable, you either start your own or you get put in another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So a couple of personal notes here. Sonya Deville is engaged to her girlfriend, Tony Cassano. Congratulations to Sonya and her girl. And, certainly wish years of happiness and lifelong love. And then allegedly we have MJF.
Oh. Yeah.
He cut a promo about it, talked about how, he found the one person in the life that made it feel like things were going to be okay, and now they're not okay, and even she has rejected him, and allegedly that was not a work, that was a shoot. So, and the fact that MJF doing what he does, where it all becomes real life and real storylines. Hats off to you, MJF. That was quite a promo that you cut. And if you're going through that, dude, it will get better.
Just crazy. Just absolutely crazy. I did not see that happening. Although she has been expanding her horizons of stuff that she's been painting. She randomly came across my timeline one day, and I was like, oh, okay. And then, like, the whole thing with MJF happened, and I was like, oh. I wonder if that coincides with each other. But I'm happy for Sonya Deville. I'm glad that she's engaged to get married. And I'm very upset for MJF and his fiancée that their engagement looks to be off.
Yeah.
The Viking Raiders attack Drew McIntyre. Ooh. There's more fighting those Vikings than the ones from Minnesota.
Hey?
He has. It's incredible what MJF has gone through. And then he's going to get, and then when he signs with WWE in about a year, he's going to get watered down Maxwell Jacob Freeman.
He's going to look a lot like The Miz.
Because I'm MJF.
And I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. I agree.
All right. So, one Mercedes Moné won the IWGP Women's Championship. How long before she loses it and leaves the company?
I asked somebody that on Facebook. It's only going to be a matter of time.
Over under Brainless One. Mind you, probably only will have like 3 matches in the next like 2 years.
At most a month. If I set the over under at 6 months, do you bet the over or the under?
I would put it at the over, and just specifically because of how minimal amount of matches that they have. They take their time to build the stuff. They don't have as aggressive as of a touring schedule, and clearly Sasha, even if they did have a more aggressive touring schedule, would not be involved with said touring schedule. So I'm going to say it's going to be over, but she's going to have problems within the next year and a half.
If you saw how she reacted to Omega backstage, you'll see why I said that. Well, Omega said, "Oh, if she ever needs a mixed tag team partner, I'm her." I almost said, "I'm a girl." Close, but if I'm a betting man, if it's 6, I might take the under just slightly. If it got bumped to 6.5, 7, I would definitely take the under. The fact is that she just won the title this past week, and
right.
They just had Wrestle Kingdom last month. I know they're touring more so in the United States. They're making it more clear, especially after COVID, that they want to travel in the United States more. I give it 6 months before she walks out, and then walks into AEW, and then something like that happens.
Okay.
It's Tony Khan nightmare. Cody versus Omega versus Jay White versus MJF in the Fatal 4-Way WrestleMania. And Cornette's calling the match with Ariel Helwani. See, I'm the one that you present something to me, and I'll take it to that next level.
Right. All right. Brainless One, what else do you want to get into? I mean, I have a few things left in my notes for this week, but nothing like ginormous.
Honestly, we've hit all the topics I've marked off, and all the important stuff, even the ones that I even think we were going to get to. We actually got to. So everything was covered for me. So if there's anything else you want to talk to, we can, or we can go right into good, bad, and brainless. It's up to you, sir.
I'll do one minor thing I really want to mention because it just see.
If you're gonna do it, you got to say it right. You're gonna do one more.
We'll do one.
We'll do one more.
We'll do one more.
Do one more.
Charlotte Flair did an interview where this week she said she doesn't notice much of a difference between booking under Vince and booking under Triple H. And I thought to myself, it's because you're the queen and more or less you get what you want. You are either the champion or you are in the top program for a female, whether it was Vince in charge or Triple H in charge. So, duh. Clearly you don't see much of a difference. But if you're somebody who, let's say, whether you lost a job because of it, or you weren't booked properly, a.k.a. Sami Zayn. They didn't want to put him near the bloodline. Oh, by the way, he's the one who has been the main lifeblood within that storyline for the past 8 months.
Yep.
I bet Sami Zayn notices a difference.
I bet you.
But like, it was so, at least in my view, completely tone deaf for all of her other coworkers. Many coworkers of which that were laid off because Vince, I don't see anything in it. And Triple H brought a lot of these people back. Some of them have been disappointments, but the general idea was to bring depth to the roster. But Charlotte coming out and not realizing how spoiled she is with her position, like, oh, yeah, no different. No different. I'm sure Roman Reigns doesn't notice much of a difference either. He noticed that Sami Zayn was booked as part of that, but, like, Roman was a top dude when Vince was in charge, and he's a top dude with Triple H in charge. So, but when I saw that, I just kind of like, you don't realize how good you have it.
Yep.
You put yourself in a good position, but
And not to say that she's not deserving of the position because of the fact that she is, at the end of the day, the top performer in the women's division for WWE. But she has busted her ass to get to that spot. But I agree. Her head is so far up her own ass that her father's head is next to it.
He wants to sleep with her still.
Yes. I mean, yeah, Karrion Kross would probably be another one you ask. I mean, yeah, the only difference between now and then is he's not just up like our episode from last week. He's not Sparta.
The person who's cutting up your Domino's pizza delivered to your house.
Oh, remember when they did the pizza spot with Jericho and Nick Gage?
If they put Karrion Kross in the Super Shredder outfit with Luigi Primo, I think that'd be epic.
Or Luigi Primo in the match with Jericho and Nick Gage when they went to the Domino's commercial.
And that's why Tony Khan was voted the best booker
and best promoter. Best booker and best promoter.
Wait. Here comes LA Knight. I have one thing to say to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Real quick, since it was brought up, I have a feeling he might not wrestle at WrestleMania this year. And if you were going to have a wrestler kind of host WrestleMania, boy, would it be fun to watch him host it in Los Angeles this year.
Yeah.
Him and Hulk Hogan. We're at the Staples Center, brother.
We're at the LA Coliseum, brother. Oh, wait, SoFi Stadium, brother.
Wait, let me tell you something, Hogan. If you ain't talking about LA Knight, you ain't talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that dude. He is, yeah. Hey, there's somebody. You should ask LA Knight how booking between Vince McMahon and Triple H is. I don't think his sense.
There's much of a difference.
I don't think he's worried about his senses being titillated anymore.
Mansoor is so praying for the Saudis to take over.
So he could go back to being Saudi taker.
He'll stop being dead inside.
Only for him would I want to see the Saudis buy the company. Other than that, I don't want to see them do it. Just because if that's what gets that poor man out of Maximum Male Models, then so be it. The fact that was voted.
Otis there soon enough, dude. Take his place.
By the way, and I know that people on this podcast are really going to like this. Maximum Male Models was voted worst gimmick of 2022.
Well, I mean, we beat them to the punch, to be fair.
To be fair. And on that note, I think we should transition to good, the bad, and the brainless.
There was awful lot of good to talk about this
was.
week. There were a lot of different directions to go into this week. So, yeah.
I agree. And I think I'm going to give a good and an honorable mention for good just because I feel like it deserves it. So what do you got for your good this week?
Dude, I am just going straight up Montreal. Whether it was SmackDown last week or Elimination Chamber, they were hot the entire time. It was not just Sami Zayn. They were into what was going on. I freaking loved it, and I'm giving the Montreal fans and the Montreal crowd my good for this week.
Okay, very good. For me, I'm going with AEW Dynamite. Hold on. Let me just make sure. Hold on.
Wait.
No? Oh, okay. Yes, I am giving AEW Dynamite my good this week, and I'll explain to you why. There was a lot of good wrestling. And not even just that. MJF and Bryan Danielson's pull apart right after the promo that MJF cut. The only issues I had was John Moxley again busted open, surprisingly, and that JEFFJARRETT wins the Battle Royal for the tag team titles. I can overlook that. Wheeler Yuta and Orange Cassidy had a fantastic match, and Evil Uno and John Moxley had an awesome. They beat the shit out of each other in the main event. That was deserving, very much so, of winning my good for this week. But I have to give an honorable mention to Saraya making more money than Jeff Jarrett this week just by ripping a side. After ripping a dude's side, she drew more money in wrestling than Jeff Jarrett just by a matter of $20. Which is still more than Paul London has drawn and the guy who I'm going to mention in Brainless has drawn in their entire careers. Combined.
All right.
So what do you got for your bad this week?
You know, originally I was going to go with Beth's botch during the match with the Spooky Pals. There were a handful of really good bad and brainless candidates this week that eventually I ended up landing on one Tony Khan. Acting just like his EVPs and being just a little bitch. Like, you see a dude who you feel may have slightly slighted you during an interview, or you look bad during an interview. But instead of coming out there and, like, you see him on SmackDown, all you have to do is say nothing. You don't look petty. You don't look like a douche.
I agree.
But then you tweet not once, but multiple times, and you come across like a petty douche who maybe can't manage a Walmart. Tony Khan, you got my bad this week. You would have gotten my brainless, but there was one that just outshined them all.
I will say this. You and I are in agreement for bad. It was bad. That whole thing. I agree. You should have just kept your mouth shut. It's either that or a guy who is a actual writer for combat sports is asking you questions about what happened at the all-out brawl that you guys have just been kind of sweeping under the rug. Sorry. These are what people do. These are what people who ask these questions are. You're not going to get these questions from Ross Sapp. He's too much of a freaking pushover and a baby-ass bitch. He's not going to do stuff to ruffle feathers. He almost had a meltdown because of the fact that he said the thing about Vince being in charge of creative and people called him out and he's like, he backtracked like he was a cornerback in the NFL. So honestly, I agree. Tony Khan deserved the bad for this week. What do you got for Brainless? Are we putting it on the poll?
It's got to be the Ryback. Like, how old are you, dude? Maurice is a good-looking woman, and you see a former colleague's wife a picture of her, just like Tony Khan. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. And then, yeah, those could be the tag team champions of the world.
I was thinking about it, but it's funny because we are definitely going to be differentiating for every week since we started doing this poll. Because for me, my Brainless goes to the Disco Inferno. The Disco Inferno came out, I don't know why. Is this on his, does he have his own show, or do people actually invite him onto wrestling shows and podcasts?
Podcast.
So he goes on his podcast, and I'm sure has less people that watch it than the Elite going up against AR Fox and Top Flight in a basketball game last Rampage. And he went on there and said, I don't understand why they put guys with big titties in the main event of shows like they did on Dynamite. Because Evil Uno has, man boobs. What? Riddle me this. Didn't King Kong Bundy main event WrestleMania 2?
Yeah.
Didn't Yokozuna main evented many WrestleManias. I mean, Bam Bam Bigelow. Haystacks Calhoun. Haystacks Calhoun was the ultimate foe to freaking Bruno Sammartino back in the day. So now you have a problem because Evil Uno, a dude who's built kind of like me, I took offense to that. I said, why the fuck is this guy, who is probably the least remembered person from the WCW days of the 90s, who, if you type up his name in the GIFs, the only thing that pops up is when La Parka blasts him with a fucking chair. The Disco Inferno is the least relevant wrestler in the history of professional wrestling. He is a skid mark on the entire period of the Monday Night Wars between Raw and WWE and WCW. He didn't do a fucking thing. He's like the Bella Twins. Tell me what he has done in his career, and go ahead. What has he done? He hasn't done shit. He's just some douchebag who looked like a freaking John Travolta from Saturday Night Fever. Thank you. He was a ripoff.
He was. Honky Tonk Man was a Walmart version of Elvis, and Disco Inferno was a Walmart 70s version of the Honky Tonk Man.
And it's funny, too, because my honorable mention wouldn't even have gone to what you said, because if it wasn't for the fact that the Disco Inferno, as bad as Ryback said what he said, and as stupid as what the Disco Inferno said, the honorable mention for me was the fan who's suing WWE for losing his hearing from being inside a building that was shooting off pyrotechnics.
Mm.
You were right, Jay. There were way too many freaking Brainless this week. And we've had plenty of weeks like that. But if you like what you see, whether you are a first-time watcher or a continuous fan, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the FN marks. If you like us, follow and subscribe to us, we will do the same back. That has always been our
mantra. And make sure you set up notifications so that when we go live on the Facebook page, you will be notified if we go live. We're also on Spotify now. And with the YouTube page, we've been trying to do stuff where, hey, we post the whole episode, but we also try to take bite-sized chunks that maybe are 3 minutes to 10 minutes long, where whether it's a brainless rant or whether we just really get into it, or whether it's our good, bad, and brainless for the week. So that way you can really dial into some of the fun that we have here. And I like to say, of all the podcasts out there, a lot of them out there are just talking at you, where we talk with you.
Yep.
We want a conversation with you. But even beyond that, we like to have fun Most of the other stuff just bitch about what's going on in professional wrestling. They don't talk about the good shit. They'll mention little bits here and there, but for the most part, they're just a bunch of people upset with their lives who cling on to professional wrestling to be even more upset about their lives, where it's like going, you know what? There's some really good shit in professional wrestling. Sami Zayn, Montreal, Bloodline, MJF, Bryan Danielson, all that stuff. There are a lot of good things going on. Don't cling on to the bad shit. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about the sport that we all love to hate every week, every Friday at 6:30 on this show. But if you like, follow, and subscribe, we will follow you back. We will subscribe back, and we will be fans of you. You be fans of us, and let's fucking do it.
Wait. So the question is,
wait,
his entire career in his life, was he just staying alive?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that after that terrible joke, I think that's the end of the. Yeah, I think we should just put this to bed.
A batter brainless for next week.
Oh goodness, no. There's plenty of time because, well, we still haven't gotten to Raw, and Tony Khan still hasn't tweeted something stupid out yet. So I think I'm in the clear for getting bad. It's still up for debate. But
yes.
wait, hold on, hold on. There is still one more thing.
What's that, brainless one?
Cousin Jay, did you know today, which happens to be February 24th of 2023.
5 years from when Big Dick Schuster got the fiver and won the curling gold medal for the United States.
Right. A man who is synonymous with Hall of Fames did something on February 24th, 2023, a whole bunch of days ago.
How many days exactly are you going to say ago that this happened?
I would say approximately 2,952 days. FM Mark's Hall of Fame is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble. I believe that is it for episode 301 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the FM Marks.
I am Jay, and by the way, I'm putting out this theory right now. The Rock didn't come back because Curtis Axel is not currently employed by the WWE. So I am Jay, and he is... I am
the Brainless One. Make sure you mark out
with your guac out. See you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of SmackDown. We will see you next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And if there's any wrestling shows you guys want me to break down like I did to Clash 13, you let me know. I am open to any of them. I just don't let it be one of those long 5-hour-long WrestleManias because I don't have enough weed for that.
Member to dismember.
Yes. I'll think about it.
Yeah.
Later, Cousin Jay.
See you, Cousin Bobby.